In this tutorial, I want to show you how I customize my ZBrush layout. Here I got my ZBrush opened, and it's quite comfortable by default, but I always prefer to change some things around. So I'm just going to go to Preferences here, Config, and Enable Customization. And so first thing I really want to do is just start getting rid of things I do not need, like I never use Projection Master, so I'll hold Control and Alt and just drag it out of the way. Quick Sketch. If you do use these tools, you better keep them where they are, but if you do not, then better just clear some space. I always use Intensity, but I never draw, so I will get rid of these as well. Add Z sub I will keep, of course. So getting rid of the RGB intensity. I'll keep the Z intensity though. I'll keep the transposes, but I'll move them a little bit closer here. Trying to light everything in a line so it's all lines up together quite nicely. I always get rid of clutter so it leaves me some space for the tools I do need that are not here yet, so that will be very important. So focal shift, I will need that. Draw size, of course. Although I do use brackets for the draw size, it still is sometimes useful to have the slider here when you go much bigger or much smaller sizes than you are at. Active point count, very useful. Same as total point count. When you have a big amount of subtools, it's quite important to have, so I'll keep those two here. So I'm just gonna drag these up now into the upper row. Save some space. Nothing, you can lay it out the way you like it, the way you feel more comfortable. I'm kind of more used to the default layout of ZBrush, so try to sort of not to overdo. I don't touch any of these here. The next thing I want to do is just want to get rid of the some of the tools here. So first thing I want to do is I'm just going to move the material away, because I don't really want it here. I'm going to move the alpha away, and I'm going to move the texture away. I'm just going to keep these for now. So next thing I want to do is get rid of the color picker, gradient. I don't almost ever use color in ZBrush, so I don't need it here either. So as you can see, I have materials opened here. So the only materials I do use, I would like to pick right now. So I do use Matcap White quite often. I'm just gonna Control Alt again and drag it over here, wherever you feel like the space is good. If you go to Preferences now, if you go to Preferences and click White Buttons, that will just make all the icons much smaller. It's much more easier to work with. Next thing I want to do is I just want to bring in the standard wax matcap here as well. I do use it from time to time just to compare the matcaps. So I don't want materials anymore. Just gonna put it away. I'm gonna go in brushes now. I'm just gonna drag it over here. And for this to work, I would need a tool to be active at the moment. So I'm just gonna bring this in, make Polymesh 3D, and edit. Gonna put document, new document. So here we go. Just gonna go edit, and here I got my brushes available now. So I have included the brushes in the project folders that I'll be using. One of the most important ones I do use are the AJ brushes that I created, and one of the most important is AJ Polish that I use pretty much all the time. I'm just gonna Control Alt drag it here. I'm gonna of course show you what these brushes do in further lessons. I'm gonna drag AJ Clip. What you do is you just click on it, and then once it appears here, just hold it and drag. Here we go. I do use Orbs Cracks again quite often. It's a very important brush to have. There's a tutorial on how to make one, but there's also one included in this lesson. AJ Clay, which is just a slight modification of a clay brush. I use that quite often. Another brush I will be using in this tutorial is AJ Noise, which we definitely want to use. Just gonna drag it here. And another brush we want is H Polish Brush, which is this one. And last but not least, I want Planner Brush, which is down here. Just gonna drag it in here as well. So here I got my brushes ready, got my strokes here. So what I can do right now is I'm just gonna take those strokes out of here. I'm gonna go to stroke menu here, and I'll just drag in one of those cubes just here. So now instead of having a big window, I can just click on this one and it'll be much smaller. Same I will do for alphas as well. Just gonna select one of those and drag it here. Just gonna move it up a little bit. So here I got the brush, the strokes, the alphas, the brushes I will be using. You can also add any brushes and you can add them anywhere you like. Last things I want to do is I just want to add some of the buttons from here as well. So make Polymesh 3D quite useful. I don't know if I'll be using it in this tutorial, but it is quite useful to have when you start working with simple shapes. Another thing you want is you want to go to Documents and New Document button, quite useful to have as well. Just going to add it here. And if we go to Geometry, I would like to add the Dynamesh resolution and Dynamesh button here as well. Just drag it in. And you could add blur as well, but I usually just stick to default. Just gonna drag this down here. And I'm gonna add divide button as well. And that's pretty much it, really. Also, of course, if you have any more tools you would like to add, just feel free to do so. I'm just gonna get rid of these now. Get rid of brush, get rid of tools. I'm trying to sort of make as much space as possible for my sculpting area. Gonna click New Document. And here we go. So now to secure our UI, I just want to go into the preference again. I'm gonna go to Config. I'm gonna click Store Config. So now this will save this configuration for by default whenever you launch ZBrush. Just gonna disable this. And the last thing I want to do is just want to save the UI. So just Digital Tutors Custom. So now I always have it backed up. So now we got our UI ready to go. In the next lesson, I just want to give you guys an example of how to create your own custom brushes.